So my name is Michel Bauwens. I'm with the Peer-to-Peer Foundation. We study open and free participatory and commons-oriented social practices, peer production, peer governance, peer property. And doing this with Robin Good of Master New Media. So the aim is to explain open infrastructures, open everything. What does that mean? What are we doing here on Earth that is changing the world as we know it and the way people relate to each other and create value together and make new types of businesses and all of that. So I made a mind map which I call everything open and free. And the first thing I want to show is what I call aspects of openness. And basically the basis of everything is the change in values. So I'm claiming that because of these peer-to-peer networks that we're creating, that people are more and more relating to each other horizontally, and this creates a new value system. And what are these aspects of openness? For example, transparency, participation, open access, shareability, the ability to fork. So all these are values that are related to openness. Now, just a little background why this is important, because every big change in society has also been a big change in the value system. So when Rome changes from a kind of slave-based empire to the feudal system under the domination of the Catholic Church and the feudal lords, this is a different value system. For example, the Romans hated work, that was for the slaves, but the Christian monks worked. This was seen as a positive thing for them. So the new feudal society represented a new value system. So in order for this to be created, people also had to change into this new value system and want to behave and create value in this particular way. So I'm arguing that this is occurring now. I just want to give one example. The trust barometer from Edelman is a PR company. They asked people in 2003, who do you trust? And then again in 2007. The amazing thing is that in 2003 people trust institutions, say 60 to 70%, and only 4 years later, and including in China, people say I trust people like myself. So this is kind of one of the signs that these value systems are changing. Now, what do we do with these value systems? Well, we embed them in what I call enablers of openness. So in other words, we make social charters, we make new social contracts. Now let's take again a historical example. We have a crisis of the feudal system in the 16th century, and serfs are fleeing the countryside. They arrive in the new cities, and in the new cities they kind of mix with people who have capital to invest in these new workers, and cities are created and strengthened. So what do? They ask for free city charters. They use their new influence to obtain a number of rights and freedoms that are encoded in social charters. So the Magna Carta, for example, is a charter that gives certain rights to people, but also, you know, the farmers can their commons is protected, etc. So it's a set of rights. Now I'm arguing this is what we're doing now. So the value systems are being encoded in, for example, open definitions. Think about the general public license, the license that governs free software. It's a set of 5 rules. Basically what you're saying is, if you want to be part of our community, if you want to create value the way we do it, you have to abide by these 5 rules. You know, in the summary, you can use everything that is in it, but every change and improvement also has to go back to the community. So that's a basic new value system and rule embedded in what I call enablers of openness. So we have access, we have the new principles, aspects of openness, the value system, and then we have the enablers of openness. These are embedded in social charters. So here I have a list: open definitions, open code, open access, open licenses, open standards, open data, open facilitation, and open governance. So we arrive at the third step, which is we are going to embed those social charters in our infrastructures. Peer production, commons-oriented peer production, is basically a combination of an open community using collaborative platforms and putting knowledge, code, and software in a commons. So the infrastructural element is very important. We need those collaborative platforms. And so what I'm saying here is that we are creating an infrastructure of cooperation, an infrastructure for openness in all the different fields of social life. Okay, here is the list again. Open collaboration spaces. Think about the hub, which is a place where global entrepreneurs can work together. This is an infrastructure that reflects different values. Think about open meeting infrastructure like bar camps and unconferences. These are ways of bringing people together to share knowledge and achieve some change, which has completely different rules from a classic conference where you have to listen to people speak. Think about open funding infrastructure, where every individual has a freedom to collaborate in creating a fund, crowdfunding, social lending, etc. So this is the third step, right? We had aspects of openness, new value systems, which were embedded in social charters, and now we have achieved the third step, which is we are creating new infrastructures of openness and collaboration, which are based on these new values, which have these charters embedded in the way they are conceived. This brings us to a fourth aspect, and here I'm just showing now examples of the open infrastructures, and what you see passing on the screen is basically the shift from open software to open hardware. In other words, we have gone from open designs, from open knowledge to open software, and now we move to open designs, shared designs, manufacturing based on shared design, making things based on sharing the designs in an open way. And I showed Arduino, which is a circuit board project, an Italian project, with 13 companies making more than $1 million and cooperating with this open community and sharing their innovations. What I have on the screen now is called eCars. It's a Finnish project where they make designs for changing any car into a hybrid electric car, and they started with the e-Corolla. This is just to show the shift of open infrastructures towards making things. I have an extensive directory of open hardware with here as an example open source projects in cars, open car projects. These collaborative platforms are going to lead to new practices. So with a practice I mean something which is not valid in one domain but over every domain. For example, when I say open hardware, well, you need open hardware for science, you might need open hardware for education, you might need open hardware in manufacturing. So it's a practice that is across different domains. So what are these practices? Open knowledge and science, open and free software, open designs, open hardware, open currencies, open capital and ownership, open funding practices. I want to give you one example: open currencies or open money. The idea here is to conceive of money as something that is designed, and the way it is designed has consequences. For example, if we have an interest-based money system with compound interests, it needs infinite growth, and infinite growth is not a good thing for society today. So you can redesign the money in a different way, and that would have a different logic. So today people, for example, are making something called the meta currency project, which is a project to create a TCP/IP, like a standard for open money making, so that every community can eventually design its currency and see how this can be exchanged with another community. So these are open practices. I mean, you need money for different things, not for one thing, right? So this is how this is differentiated from the next section, which is domains of openness. So the new values that we have embedded in social charters, embedded in infrastructure of cooperation, and that we are practicing. With this, we are going to change our own field of practice. So if I'm a scientist, I'm going to use these practices to build open science. If I'm active in business, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to change my practices into open business. People are asking transparency and open politics. If I want to have a spiritual life, but I don't believe in a particular, let's say, hierarchically organized religion, I can have an open spiritual practice. So I'm going to change how I do spirituality. So all the domains of life are going to be changed in this way by achieving and adapting to these new demands of openness. Domains of openness leads to products of openness. So what we have here is concrete stuff like the Wikipedia, like open government data, or like open courseware. This is within a field something concrete that people can use. So here we are in a very concrete life. We have new products, new institutions, and this is changing the way a society functions. And we are almost at the end, because the end is the following, which I call open movement. So I just like to say a word about the P2P Foundation. So we are a foundation, a global foundation for people collaborating around building knowledge around peer-to-peer, and this means the open and free input. You cannot work together if you don't have open and free input. This means participatory processes. You're not going to contribute freely to a project where your work can be appropriated by somebody else and not shared, and therefore we put it in the commons. This is our way of explaining the new reality and to contribute to the changing consciousness. So what you see on the slide are movements like Global Swadeshi, Apropedia, OpenCoalition.net, Pirate Parties, Open Collab, Open Materials, and the P2P Foundation. So if you like, we work on the consciousness that people have. So we take all these open platforms, these open practices, these open products, and we create a platform where people can exchange these concrete experiences and learn from each other. And so we arrive at the end of our circle, which is basically open consciousness, right? So we had the starting point, which was the transvaluation, the new value system, which is an expression of a new form of consciousness. And so we arrived at this expression of open consciousness. I want to use an analogy to explain why I took this approach. So let's say we live in a feudal society. In a feudal society, the lord gets the surplus from his farmers, and he has really no interest in accumulating capital, but he spends it in kind of competition with other lords. But if you live in the city of Florence or Venice and you're a merchant, this doesn't really work. So at some point a monk invents double bookkeeping. But once people start using double bookkeeping, they start thinking differently about value and managing value. So the fact that they use these tools in turn changes consciousness, and the new society will basically be born because in different fields people are inventing new patterns, and these patterns kind of align to each other, and eventually will create a new logic within society that emerges first, then might become as strong as the old system, and eventually takes it over. So that's the story, and what I want to say is that we cannot change society merely by doing politics if we don't also have a proof that our alternatives work. So it's important to combine constructive and internetworked construction of open infrastructures. This is how we change our concrete lives. Even within the old system, we can change our life, and then we connect with each other, and we create a baseline of change within society. This in itself is not enough to change society, but it's a condition. We combine that with social movements who have the power to change politics and to change institutions in society, and finally we deal with policy making and creating new institutions that will embed all of these changes. So I think open infrastructures are a very important step, and they're very important to understand them. So I think the final point I want to make is An enormous amount of people are doing this, but they may not know that other people are doing it. So they feel isolated and maybe they don't really believe in the change they want. So I think by showing this map, we are showing that the open alternative, far from just being something totally marginal, has already a substantial reality. In the P2P Foundation.net wiki, we have 10,000 entries reflecting open patterns, open projects. So I invite you to check it out, p2pfoundation.net, and to look at your own field of activity, whether it's spirituality, of business or politics, and find out what other people are doing to change their life, to create new social structures, and to connect with them, and to form a social movement that can change the world. Thanks.